Our weekly segment, TikTok, where we take a closer look at the story behind the sensation. Tomorrow marks International Holocaust Remembrance Day, a time to commemorate, reflect, and honor the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust and millions of other victims of Nazism. Dov Foreman, the great-grandson of Auschwitz survivor Lily Eber, uses his platform to educate younger generations about the genocide, sharing her story to combat anti-Semitism. Take a look.
For this time already before, now, and all the time, always happened bad things. But something like the Holocaust never, ever happened. And I hope, with God's help, never again will happen.
Dov Foreman joins us now. So special that you get to have this relationship and know your great-grandmother. Dov, thanks so much for joining us. Before we dive into your content, I'd like to talk about your experience this week visiting the former concentration camp of Auschwitz. What was going through your mind as you walked past where your great-grandmother arrived?
It was incredibly difficult. Firstly, thank you so much for having me on tonight. Returning to the Auschwitz memorial site for the first time, I thought that because of all the work that I'd done with my great-grandmother over the past 3 years, writing our book, Lily's Promise Together, and also educating over 2 million followers on TikTok about my great-grandmother's harrowing Holocaust testimony, I thought I would have been able to understand and comprehend. But I arrived there, and there are two moments which stick out in my mind, which really made me realize that you can never understand. And one of those moments was when I was taken to a room, and I was shown a blueprint which was created by ordinary and educated men and women, scientists, doctors, and lawyers, a blueprint for the gas chambers in Auschwitz-Birkenau. And people, ordinary people, sat down to decide how best and systematically they could murder my great-grandmother's family, innocent people, for no reason other than the religion they were born into. When my great-grandmother arrived in Auschwitz-Birkenau in July 1944, her mother, younger sister, and younger brother were ushered away from her very quickly. She never got to say goodbye, and they were murdered that day in the gas chambers. And the second moment, which really sticks out in my mind from my trip to the Auschwitz-Birkenau memorial site last week, was when we were taken to the shoe exhibition in Block 5. And it's impossible not to be haunted by that great pile of shoes there in that block. When you hear the number 6 million, it's impossible to understand. But when you see these shoes, these individual pieces of history, it really makes you think and realize that perhaps one of these people was one of those members of my great-grandmother's family who were murdered.
Recounting her experience must be so excruciating. What have you learned through this process that a textbook wouldn't be able to teach you?
I think as a young person, I'm in the unique position that I know what it's like to learn about the Holocaust through a textbook in school. I've only just finished school last year. And so I know how hard it is to comprehend and understand. And you go to a place like Auschwitz, when you hear my great-grandmother's story, a singular testimony, someone who was there, an eyewitness, that's when you can try to understand and begin to comprehend. Because you realize that people just like you, people who lived in a secure community, people who, like me, were secure with their Judaism, and suddenly, for no reason other than that fact that they were Jewish, were taken away from their homes and murdered. And I think that's something which I've realized and learned through my great-grandmother, which you can't through the textbooks. It's that human side of the Holocaust. But what I've also learned through my great-grandmother's testimony and through the testimony of countless other survivors is about how, through the darkest of times, you can have hope for a better future.
You're transforming your great-grandmother's pain into purpose. What's one thing that you'll always remember about her?
I could sit here all day telling you things that I've learned from my great-grandmother and the incredibly important messages which I'll always remember. And I think one of those, as I mentioned earlier, is to have hope. And no matter how hard the times get, to realize that there is light at the tunnel. But on the other side, another one is, again, to realize your role in standing up to hatred, racism, and injustice in this world. Because if not, we risk something like the Holocaust perhaps being repeated again in the future.
Before we leave, Lily has a message for us all. Let's listen.
It is so important that the world should not forget when we are not tolerant to each other, when we think somebody else is more important, it is a big mistake because we are all the same.
Big mistake. We're all the same. Dov, your reaction to her words?
I think it's so incredibly important. Auschwitz and Auschwitz-Birkenau, the place the memorial sites where I visited last week, where my great-grandmother at 20 years old was taken, where her mother, younger sister, and younger brother were murdered, is not a place which fell from the sky. Auschwitz and the Holocaust came and was born from an ideology, a basic ideology, which seeped into the minds of ordinary people, which is that I am superior and someone else is inferior. And this ideology is still around today. And if we don't realize that there is more in common than that which divides us, we risk something like the Holocaust being repeated. And it's up to us to seek that common humanity and to realize that it doesn't matter if someone is different to you. As my great-grandmother always says, it doesn't matter if someone belongs to a different religion or race or nationality. They are all the same. We are all human, down to our core.
One human race. Dov, we thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for sharing her powerful stories from your great-grandmother. You can learn more about the Holocaust and the Jewish community on his TikTok at Lily Ebert. Thank you, Dov.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.